Please rise for the presentation of colors as the flags of the United States of America and the state of California are brought in by the Honor Guard from the Richard A. McGee Correctional Training Center. And then please remain standing for the singing of our national anthem by Captain Nathan Justin of California State Prison, Solano.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. And now, Deacon Beal Gagey, CDCR chaplain from the California State Prison, Sacramento, will lead the invocation.
Please join me with heads and hearts bowed as we invoke this blessing. Heavenly Father, on this day which has opened so graciously for us and for those whose lives have been saved by actions such as those exemplified today, we now thankfully acknowledge the opportunity to esteem the bravery and self-sacrifice of those in our midst who honor us gathered here with the invitation to celebrate with them courage exercised in the most challenging of times and places. We ask to be likewise strengthened in our walk, following their example, to be instruments today of mercy-filled healing and peace. And so, as we recall the many blessings of our Creator, let us remember most the spirit in which today's honorees have shared bravely, through deeds accomplished despite adversity, and in cooperation with the best forms of human service. With grace allowing our communities around the state to be more at peace and most thankful for the everlasting gifts of compassion and mercy that these honorees share so generously, and for showing us the best example of what the Lord Jesus taught in doing unto others what you would have them do unto you. We pray this Spirit to be infused in us always, and in his name, amen.
It is my privilege to introduce the Secretary of the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, Scott Kernan.
Well, good morning. I'm filled with pride as we honor the spirit and courage of our colleagues during the 32nd Annual Medal of Valor ceremony. I think I've been to all 32 to age myself. This is certainly a significant event for the staff and their families, and more importantly for CDCR. The staff in our department, all 30,000 sworn and 60,000 total, go above and beyond the line of duty every day in our prisons. And then there's these acts, these singular acts of bravery that occur out into our communities, truly first responders. I am very proud to be able to introduce our governor. He is somebody that has cared about the correction system, criminal justice, for a very long time, and he's expressed he's put his name and reputation behind changing how we incarcerate people in this state. And so it is my great privilege to introduce Governor Edmund G. Brown.
Good morning. It's a very important event today, and I'm very glad to be just a small part of it. Corrections plays a very important role in protecting public safety and advancing the interests of our state. Unfortunately, because it's far removed from most people's lives, very few people know what you do and what all the various working people, the men and women of the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. But I've come to appreciate this organization from the time that I first visited prisons when my father was governor back in 1960. So it's been a long time to observe what you do and the challenges that you have, the problems, but also the great successes. And there are great successes, both in maintaining the safety of the staff and those who are incarcerated, but also in the work of rehabilitation that actually allows people to turn and encourages people to turn their lives around. This is a ceremony about valor, to give the Medal of Valor to those individuals who've demonstrated valor, courage in the face of real danger. And I just want to make a point about courage. Courage is a virtue, and a virtue is something I learned a long time ago, is a habit. And there are two kinds of habits. There are bad habits and there are good habits. A bad habit is called a vice, and a good habit is called a virtue. And you don't get habits just pulling them out of the sky. They're inculcated, and they are deepened by exercise. So you have to train people in courage. And as we honor men who met that test, and therefore who have demonstrated that virtue of courage, it's well to remember, what does it take? And is our society really encouraging courage? Now, I know it's very important to protect those who can't protect themselves and those who are vulnerable. But if you take that concept too far, you take away the opportunity for young men and women to learn courage. Because you can't learn courage without danger. You can't learn courage without risk. And the Medal of Valor that we give today is given to people who, in the face of danger, physical danger to their own lives, met the test. They did what they had to do. They let duty prevail over fear. And in the world we live today, there's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of non-courage. There's a lot of self-indulgence. So I see this Medal of Valor not only as a recognition of the two individuals that are going to get this award today, and not only as something that gives testimony to the daily courage of those men and women who work in our Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, but also just for the fact to memorialize something happened. And something happened in a way that it didn't have to happen that way. Because if these men didn't show courage, and therefore if they didn't have that preparation, they wouldn't have done what they did. So I'm very happy to play a small part in this ceremony and to be with you as we recognize the two men who were courageous, and we see this Medal of Valor. It is a medal, and it's valor, and it's a very important thing, not just for the individuals who are getting it, but for the rest of us to help us rise out of our own fear and our own hesitation that often characterizes so many of our lives. And we want to all take inspiration from those who have demonstrated with the ultimate test that they responded. And I hope that I can respond and each of you can respond when the moment comes. And today we honor those individuals who did exactly what we need to do to have a great Department of Corrections and also have a great society that we all want. Thank you.
As we move into the next part of our ceremony, I want to thank the California Correctional Supervisors Association for graciously hosting the CDCR Medal of Valor Award ceremony the past 13 years. That association has been friends of the department for a very long time, and just really appreciate their participation in this event. I would also like to thank the Creekside Christian Church for making their excellent facility available to us today. Today we celebrate some amazing people for bravery, innovation, and leadership. In 2017, the department significantly advanced its public safety mission to unprecedented levels. Along the way, our staff faced significant challenges. I'm honored to personally thank our dedicated staff members for their qualities of distinction, dedication, and hard work. Many serve our department with dignity and humility every day. Today, we honor some of our best employees for their outstanding service. The Medal of Valor Awards represent remarkable and exemplary public service. We will present the department's highest awards to 113 men and women who have gone above and beyond the call of duty in their acts and deeds. As law enforcement employees, you stand for courage and honor. You act instinctively, not for recognition. Through humble service and bravery, you embody correctional excellence. Our employees work hard to ensure we operate safe, secure, and humane correctional facilities under stressful and challenging conditions. We are changing the inmates that we are charged with supervising and making an impact on public safety. Their public safety work supports safe California communities. We are here to recognize employees who saved lives and performed extraordinary deeds without expectation of recognition. Our honorees performed courageously during dangerous times, tirelessly advanced our public safety mission, and delivered life-saving measures. The high standards and ethical decisions in their work deserve the highest recognition. We will soon recognize a unit that, in the face of dangerous individuals and life-threatening circumstances, displayed great courage. Others have led the department for a period of months or years to help fulfill our public safety mission. In all cases, their actions went beyond the normal demands of correctional service. The noble acts and innovative ideas are an inspiration to us all. I am privileged to lead the department and very proud of the employees we are honoring here today. Now, please join me in congratulating the recipients of the 2017 Medal of Valor Awards.
Our first awards are the Employee Recognition Program. Each year, directors in our divisions recognize employees in their areas for outstanding work. Presenting our Employee Recognitions Awards is Dr. Diana Tosh, Undersecretary, Healthcare Services.
Thank you, Sam. Good morning. Can't see any of you with that up there. So I look forward to this event every year. I truly believe it's an honor and a privilege to be able to hand out these awards. And so let's start handing out the hardware to people. So the first award is for the Executive of the Year. M. Elliott Spearman, Warden of High Desert State Prison. Please come forward to accept your award. Warden Spearman has served the people of California for over 30 years as a correctional peace officer. In 2015, Warden Spearman volunteered on to take the challenge of running High Desert State Prison. During this time, High Desert was under a tremendous amount of scrutiny from internal and external stakeholders based on allegations of excessive use of force and staff misconduct. This was a very trying time for High Desert. Following the release of a special report by the Office of the Inspector General, CDCR took immediate action. Under the leadership of Warden Spearman and the tireless efforts of the High Desert staff, the institutional culture is continually improving and staff is embracing this change. This is attributed to Warden Spearman sharing his vision with the staff, gaining the support of his management team, and staying the course. Warden Spearman fosters an environment to teach staff communication skills and work with them to understand the importance of rehabilitation. Thank you, Warden Spearman, for your leadership and dedication to CDCR. The next award is for Administrator of the Year. Howard Mosley, Chief Deputy General Counsel for the Office of Legal Affairs, please come forward to receive your award. Shortly after Proposition 57 was passed in November 2016, Mr. Mosley was selected to lead the charge in drafting the regulatory changes required to implement this important initiative. He acted as a liaison to both internal and external stakeholders, including the Governor's Office, DAI, EIS, and the Regulations and Policy Management Branch, to name a few, in order to ensure that input from all parties was reflected in the regulations. His efforts resulted in the approval of emergency regulations by the Office of Administrative Law. However, his job did not end there. Mr. Mosley continues to work on the implementation and shepherding of the regulations through the time-consuming finalization process. This award recognizes his efforts in spearheading the crafting of a policy that reflects a historic shift in California's correctional system. The next award is for Correctional Officer of the Year. Correctional Officer Ashley Justo is of the California Institution for Women. Please come forward to receive your award. Officer Gusto enthusiastically embraces new challenges and displays outstanding attention to detail and efficiency. Her ability to respond capably to situations that do not fit the normal conventions of correctional officer training was demonstrated last year when she responded to the autistic son of an inmate while she was the visiting officer. The child was in crisis, hitting his inmate father and being disruptive. Officer Gusto calmed the child despite being hit several times herself and rescued a situation that could have spiraled out of control. She demonstrated an exceptional mastery of professional skills. Thank you, officer, for a job well done. The next award is for Correctional Supervisor of the Year. This year, we are honoring 2 people. The honorees are Correctional Counselor 2 Supervisor Jennifer Kuhn of the California Substance Abuse Treatment Facility in Corcoran State Prison, and Correctional Lieutenant Shane Brown of the California State Prison Solano. Counselor Kuhn and Lieutenant Brown, please come forward to accept your awards. Counselor Kuhn helped make several important programs successful, including assisting the Board of Parole hearing staff in assuring that hearings met policy and time constraints, implementing the board information technology system, processing numerous family visit applications. For over 21 years, Lieutenant Brown has remained consistent, competent, and ever passionate about an occupation that at times can seem thankless. His outstanding dedication and consistency has earned him the respect among management, subordinate staff, and peers. He leads by example, meticulously takes the necessary actions, pays great attention to detail, and is ever humble about his considerable achievements. Thank you, Supervisor Kuhn and Lieutenant Brown, for your service. Our next award is for the Health Services Professional of the Year. So this year, we're recognizing 35 folks who successfully deployed the electronic health record system. So we only have a few of them here. We don't have all 35. So I'm going to read you all 35 because to do this statewide, it took more than just a couple of people. It takes a village. So Dr. Eric Lee, Dr. John Reckert, Janine Del Mundo, Deborah Amos Terrell, Josh Albertson, Teresa Camero Yip, Patty Gonzalez, June Buckholtz, Chris Brady, Laura Kuntz, Jim Elliott, Grace Jazian, Maria Fritz, Renua Francesconi, Nick Fargasso, Tony Ritchie, Gance Lee, Cynthia Ricker, Rebecca Ramirez, Mide Peterson, Jody Hearn, Vilal Lumi, Janetta Taylor, Ryan Namba, Unique Martinez, Kevin Kuick, Stephen Cartwright, Lisa Holcomb, Jean-Marc Monose, Jason Whitby, and Mamie Howe, Deborah Castor, Michelle Williams, Jennifer Wright, and Mary Beliza. Many of those team members are on duty today, but representing all the honorees are Eric Lee, John Reckert, Janine Del Mundo, and Deborah Amos Terrell. Please come forward. Since 2008, California Correctional Healthcare Services and the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation work collaboratively to move millions of paper records to a semi-electronic system of PDFs in 2011, and then to an electronic health record system, or EHRS. The new EHRS has helped healthcare services increase patient safety and continuity of care by integrating all aspects of health. Best of all, the EHRS allows our clinicians to manage care based on real-time data. Future enhancements include a fully integrated dental component and an information exchange with outside entities. The EHRS deployment team has worked successfully to roll out EHRS to 28 adult institutions supporting 14,000 users and more than 102,000 patients. The team will complete its rollout of EHRS to all 35 institutions on Halloween, October 31st. Thank you for your good work. Our next award is for the Division of Adult Parole Operations Professional of the Year. Steve Marshall, Associate Director, please come forward to receive your award. Mr. Marshall was closely involved with the supervision oversight for high-risk gang offenders and DAPO's sex offender population. As the former administrator over DAPO's electronic monitoring unit, Mr. Marshall saw the program recognized as a model for the effective use of electronic monitoring of high-risk offenders. His efforts have helped to define performance standards for offender tracking system equipment and software, directly affecting the electronic monitoring success of our partners in the criminal justice system throughout the nation. Mr. Marshall has played an integral role in the development and implementation of DAPO's 3 Years to Excellence. His diverse experience in all areas of the community supervision has helped to improve public safety while also providing offenders with opportunities for successful reintegration into society. Mr. Marshall, thank you for a job well done. Our next award is for the Division of Juvenile Justice Professional of the Year. This year, we are honoring 2 people. Danette Bowens, a former parole agent 2 and now a member of the Juvenile Board of Parole Hearings, and Lynn Arbios, Executive Secretary. Please come forward to receive your rewards. During Ms. Bowen's approximately 20 years with the department, she devoted countless hours to working closely with DJJ youth to develop viable reentry plans. She developed ongoing services and workshops for the youth to include foster care workshops, voter registration training, and reintegration academy with teachers, teaches youths how to enroll in college, how to study effectively, and how to write essays for college acceptance, among other skills. She also assisted in organizing a picture book project in which youth put together a book about themselves. The project was favorably recognized by an outside agency, and 2 of the books were published. During her 27 years with the department, Ms. Arbios worked closely with several superintendents, assistant superintendents, and DJJ headquarters. She has been an exemplary employee overseeing countless high-profile assignments, audits, and projects that have benefited DJJ as a whole. Ms. Arbios has been the foundation of the Northern California Youth Correctional Center, working closely with all disciplines to ensure fair lawsuit compliance standards were met. Congratulations to both of you on a job well done. Our next award is the Division of Rehabilitative Programs Professional of the Year. This year we are honoring 3 people: Jessica Maslam, Landon Bravo, and Ryan Souza. Please come forward to accept your awards. As the Chief of Contract Compliance, Ms. Maslam has been instrumental in the development and implementation of the male community reentry programs. Beyond these programs, Jessica has been critical in expanding our community and in-prison contract relationships. Additionally, she has restructured much of the contracting process and continues to improve DRP's ability to provide rehabilitation. As the Chief of Contract Compliance in the Division of Rehabilitative Programs, Ms. Bravo has worked tirelessly to support the department's mission to implement and expand the provisions of rehabilitative services to successfully reintegrate offenders into our communities. He has led the implementations of statewide rehabilitative programming to all CDCR adult institutions. In his former role as Associate Director of Administrative Operations and Program Support, Mr. Souza played a vital role in DRP's ability to accomplish operational tasks. In the last year, he has led the development and implementation of quantitative performance measures to assess the status of program implementation, restructured our budgeting and invoicing process, which has alleviated vendor complaints. His work has allowed DRP to expand the programs and services without additional funding requests and continues to lead the development of technology solutions. Mr. Souza was recently appointed by Governor Brown to the position of Deputy Director. Thank you all for your service. Presenting our next awards, the Distinguished Service Medal, will be Undersecretary Ken Pogue of Administration and Offender Services.
Thank you, Dr. Tosh. Our next awards are for the Distinguished Service Medal. The Distinguished Service Medal is awarded for an employee work conduct with the department for a period of months or years, or involvement in a special assignment of unusual benefit to the department. Our first medals are awarded to Warden Kelly Santoro of North Kern State Prison, and Correctional Administrator Kelly Medina of the Headquarters Female Offender Program. Please step forward to receive your awards. Warden Santoro and C.A. Medina wrote the original authorization text and authored the milestone completion credit schedule, which went into effect in 2010. They continually updated the regulations and are instrumental in the changes as they relate to Prop 57. Their work helped encourage inmates to participate in meaningful programs, thus making them more marketable for employment upon parole or discharge into the community. Thank you for your service. Our next Distinguished Service Medal is awarded to Brantley Choate, Director of the Division of Rehabilitative Programming. Please come forward, or actually, please step down and receive your award. In his former role as Superintendent of the Office of Continuing Education, Mr. Choate sharply expanded the educational opportunities for inmates, greatly increasing the rehabilitation efforts of CDCR. Under his leadership, career technical education programs were modernized to the point which industry-based certificates are available even in prison. He has expanded college degree opportunities, and he is increasing inmate learning options through expanded television-based courses. His efforts greatly improve the chances of an inmate being prepared for a productive life outside of CDCR. Mr. Choate was recently appointed by Governor Brown to the position of Director. Congratulations, Mr. Choate, on a job well done. Our next Distinguished Service Medal is awarded to Ronald G. France, Parole Agent 3 and Senior Investigator for the Board of Parole Hearings Offender Investigations Unit. Please come forward and accept your award. Agent France has served the Board of Parole Hearings since 2000 in a wide variety of duties. He served ably as Chief of Training and Development for many years. Assigned most recently to the Offender Investigations Unit as the Senior Investigator, he has taken on many critical tasks. These duties have included developing security plans for dignitary protection assignments and active shooter training. Congratulations, Agent France, on a job well done. Our next Distinguished Service Medal is awarded to Correctional Officer Jack Hansen of California State Prison, Sacramento. Officer Hansen is unable to be here today. Officer Hansen has excelled for more than a decade as an expert on institution and staff safety. He has a long record of success with his work on the Special Emergency Response Teams, also known as CERTs. In 2006, he played a key role in the successful recovery of a correctional officer taken hostage at California State Prison, Sacramento. Recently, he was the lead instructor to more than 1,500 officers and supervisors at CSP SAC and Folsom State Prison who transitioned to the Glock pistols. Thank you for your service, Officer Hansen. Our next awards are unit citations. The unit citation is awarded for great courage displayed by a departmental unit in the course of conducting an operation in the face of immediate life-threatening circumstances. Our first unit citation honorees are from the Division of Adult Parole Operations Riverside GPS Unit. Parole Agent 3 Calvin Holmes Jr. and Parole Agent 2 Hein Lay, please come forward and receive your awards. In February 2016, a worker at a Riverside outpatient clinic told Holmes and Lay that based on a phone call, she believed a parolee was going to hurt himself. Using GPS, the two agents tracked the parolee to a parking lot near the parole office. The agents spotted the parolee in a car with a hose running from the exhaust to the passenger window. Lay pulled the conscious man from the vehicle and Holmes called 911. Their quick teamwork may have saved a life. Thank you, Agents Holmes and Hein, for your service. Our next unit citation honorees are from High Desert State Prison. As I call your name, please come forward and receive your awards. Brittany Alkire, Correctional Counselor 1, and Correctional Officers Dominic Avila, Justin Byers, Mark Friend, Jeffrey McCullough, Larry Middlesworth, Chad Wanamaker, and William McCart. Unfortunately, Officers Avila, Friend, and Alcair are unable to be here today. This group before you used outstanding teamwork to save Officer McCart, who was attacked by an inmate at High Desert State Prison in June of 2016. Officer McCart, the target of the attack, displayed bravery despite being stabbed multiple times to help 5 other officers subdue his own attacker. Counselor Akire and 2 officers removed Officer McCart from the scene and rendered aid, including applying pressure to stop the bleeding until medical staff took over. All told, 6 officers were injured in the attack and the rescue. Thank you all for your bravery and life-saving work. Our next unit citation honorees are from Folsom State Prison. As I call your name, please come forward to receive your medals. Registered Nurse Paramgeet Kaur, Fire Captains Elliot Hull and Arthur Duke Juanitas, and Fire Chief Steve McKay. Correctional Sergeants Robert Curry, Joseph Eierman, and Corey Ringer. Correctional Officers Dale Bunch, Rodney Lazard, and Peter Ryersbach Jr. In July of 2016, this Folsom State Prison group came together to help an officer who collapsed after exiting a tower. An officer still in the tower saw the collapse and alerted other members of his group who rushed to provide aid. Several administered CPR while others arranged for the prison's ambulance to transport the fallen officer to the hospital. Despite their heroic efforts, the officer later died at the hospital. Members of the group then provided emotional support for the fallen officer's family. The members of this group demonstrated compassion, empathy, and valor. Thank you all for your service. Presenting our next awards, the Bronze Stars, will be Deborah Heisen, Director of the Division of Facility Planning, Construction, and Management.
Thank you, Ken. It is indeed an honor to be here in this auditorium today to share these heroic stories of the dedicated men and women that work for this department and to recognize them accordingly. I am particularly honored to kick off presentation of the Bronze Star Medal recipients. The CDCR Bronze Star Medal is an award to an individual who has saved a life without placing oneself in peril. The employee shall have used proper training and tactics in a professional manner to save or clearly contribute to saving the life of another person. Our first Bronze Star is awarded to Correctional Officer Tony Carbajal of the Central Transportation Unit. Please come forward to receive your medal. In February 2016, Officer Carbajal was on duty in CDCR's Transportation Unit when he came upon a traffic accident. No other responders were on scene, and so Officer Carbajal stopped and ran to a vehicle with smoke coming from the engine area. A panicked woman inside the vehicle yelled for someone to save her baby inside the car. Carbajal found the infant with minor injuries and a loose child carrier in the back of the car. He carried the baby to another officer. He returned to the car and found the woman was pinned. Despite the fire risk, he stayed with her until a fire crew arrived. Thank you, Officer Carbajal, for your bravery. Our next Bronze Star is another case of a correctional officer rescuing a child after a vehicular accident. Officer Mario Rios from the California Correctional Institution, please come forward to receive your medal. As Officer Rios was driving home from his shift, he came across an overturned vehicle. A man and a child were trapped inside. Officer Rios crawled through a window and freed the child from the rear seat. He carried the child, who was otherwise unharmed, to other members of her family. He returned to the wreck but was unable to free the trapped adult. Despite the potential of fire, he stayed with the man until emergency personnel arrived. Officer Rios, thank you for your service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Parole Agent 1 Lee Brannon of the Oakland Parole Complex. Please come forward to receive your medal. Apparently, Officer Brannon cannot be here with us today. Oh, he is? Oh. They were shaking their heads. In March 2016, Agent Brannon drove upon the scene of an accident where a special needs school bus was on fire. He called 911 and then used his state-issued fire extinguisher to put out the fire. He then helped the bus driver remove children from the bus and to safety. Agent Brannon directed traffic around the bus until emergency personnel arrived. His quick actions kept a volatile situation from turning deadly. Thank you for your service, Agent Brannon. Our next Bronze Stars are awarded to Correctional Officer Sean Brown and Stationary Engineer Greg Henry of the California State Prison, Corcoran. Please come forward to receive your medals. In May 2016, a stationary engineer working on a rooftop lost his footing and sliced his wrist on a piece of metal. The injury was life-threatening. Mr. Henry, who was also working on the roof, applied pressure to the wound and stopped the heavy bleeding. He assisted the victim to a scissor lift so he could be moved to the ground. Sergeant Brown responded to the scene and took control of the victim's treatment. He applied a pressure bandage wound. He directed other staff in their treatment of the victim and made sure the paramedics who arrived were informed of the injury and of the treatment. The victim survived. Thank you both for your service and dedication to your fellow employee. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to registered nurse Gloria Cano of Ironwood State Prison. Please come forward to receive your medal. In December 2016, registered nurse Cano was at San Diego International Airport returning from a celebration of her 30th birthday. Suddenly, a man collapsed near her. She immediately went to check on him. He wasn't conscious and did not have a pulse. She immediately began CPR. Amid the chaos around her, she kept treating the man until he regained consciousness. After turning him over to medical responders, she calmly gathered her belongings and resumed her trip to her destination. She likely saved the man's life. Thank you, Registered Nurse Cano, for acting in the best tradition of CDCR. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Correctional Sergeant Mark Barra of California State Prison. Please come forward to receive your medal. While on his way to work in July 2016, Officer Barra saved the life of a 4-month-old baby. He saw a car on the side of the road and a woman pacing frantically, talking on the phone while holding the baby. He stopped and a man yelled the baby wasn't breathing. Sergeant Barra took the baby and realized the baby was choking. He gently tapped the baby's back and treated the child until it began crying and regained normal skin color. Thank you, Sergeant Barra, for stopping and saving this baby's life. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Correctional Officer Gilbert Hora of California State Prison, Sacramento. Please come forward to receive your medal. In September 2016, Officer Hora was leaving a bowling alley when he heard yelling and screaming from inside the business. He found a man sitting on the floor with his back to a ball return machine, bleeding heavily from stab wounds. Officer Hora yelled for someone to call 911 while he used his shirt to stop the bleeding. The man survived. It was later determined the victim was an off-duty peace officer. Officer Hora, thanks to your quick and professional actions, a fellow peace officer's life was likely saved. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Correctional Sergeant Salvador Velasco, Jr. of Calipatria State Prison. Please come forward to receive your medal. In August 2016, while driving to work, Sergeant Velasco saw a man on the ground near the scene of a traffic accident. He stopped, called 911, and helped the unconscious victim. The victim was bleeding and had severe injuries. Sergeant Velasco applied pressure to stop the bleeding. After the man regained consciousness, Sergeant Velasco assured him that medical help was on the way. After paramedics arrived, Sergeant Velasco continued to assist in the caring for the victim before he was transported to a hospital. Thank you, Sergeant Velasco, for your life-saving service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Correctional Sergeant Anthony Marquez of the R.A. McGee Correctional Training Center. Please come forward to receive your medal. In December 2016, Sergeant Marquez was ready to enjoy a day of golf in Elk Grove, but he ended up saving a man's life. He witnessed a 55-year-old man collapse on the golf course. He told others to call 911 as he rushed to the man's aid. Sergeant Marquez could not detect a pulse, and the man had stopped breathing. Sergeant Marquez began CPR and continued until emergency responders arrived. They resuscitated the man, and he survived. And on a special note, Sergeant Marquez was also awarded a Bronze Star in 2010 for saving the lives of several accident victims. Sergeant Marquez, thank you for your continued dedication to saving the lives of others. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Correctional Sergeant Stanley Wright, Jr. of the California Medical Facility, formerly of the R.A. McGee Correctional Training Center. Please come forward to receive your medal. In December 2016, Sergeant Wright was at home when a nearby construction crew ruptured a natural gas line. He immediately got his family to safety and called 911. Despite the potential for an explosion, he began warning his neighbors. Occupants of 3 houses responded and moved to safety before the fire department arrived and took over. Neighbors expressed gratitude for Sergeant Wright staying and warning them rather than seeking safety for himself. Thank you for your life-saving service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Correctional Sergeant Mark Evans from the Correctional Training Facility. Please come forward to receive your medal. In July 2016, Sergeant Evans came upon a traffic accident involving a minivan, a big rig, and an earth mover. 6 people were trapped in the minivan, and a woman was partially ejected. Sergeant Evans helped the woman who had glass shards in her eyes move away, keeping her from touching her eyes and potentially making the injury worse. With the tanker leaking fuel and creating a fire danger, he then pulled a 12-year-old boy from the wreckage. After emergency responders arrived and cut off the minivan's roof supports, Sergeant Evans helped lift the roof and free the remaining occupants. Sergeant Evans, thank you for your life-saving service. Our next Bronze Star presentations will be made by Russ Nichols, Director of the Division of Enterprise Information Services.
All right, thank you, Deborah. I'm truly honored to be here to help celebrate presenting these awards to our staff members who have acted so selflessly in service to others. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Correctional Officer Christopher Sanders of Folsom State Prison. Officer Sanders, please come forward to accept your medal. In June 2016, a fishing trip turned into a rescue mission for Officer Sanders. Officer Sanders and friends came upon what appeared to be an abandoned boat near the shore of an island. Officer Sanders spotted an elderly gentleman partially submerged. The man had become trapped in the boat's rigging and was suffering from a lacerated arm and hypothermia. Officer Sanders freed the man and treated his injuries. He and the others took the man back to safety and towed his boat to safety. The man subsequently recovered. Officer Sanders, thank you for your bravery and your life-saving services. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Correctional Counselor 2, Daniel Kirk of Sierra Conservation Center. Please come forward to receive your medal. In December of 2016, Counselor Kirk had just picked up his son from daycare and was headed home when he came upon a 3-vehicle accident. An 89-year-old woman was sitting in her vehicle, disoriented by the crash, when smoke began to rise from under the engine compartment. Fearing the vehicle would catch fire, Counselor Kirk calmed the woman and then carried her to safety. He stabilized the injured woman and stayed with her until medical help arrived. Thank you for your life-saving service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Parole Agent 3, Kenneth Thomas, of the Division of Adult Parole Operations, Southern Region, and member of the California Parole Apprehension Team. Agent Thomas is unable to be with us today. In July of 2016, Agent Thomas was driving through a parking lot in Corona when he came upon a woman trapped under a car. While trying to change a tire, the car had fallen upon her. Agent Thomas grabbed his trauma kit and ran to the scene. With the help of others, the car was lifted and the woman was freed. Agent Thomas, who was EMT trained, treated the victim for a crushed upper arm and forearm. He kept her immobilized until medical help arrived. Thank you, Agent Thomas, for your service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Christina Smith, an Associate Governmental Program Analyst at Chuckawalla Valley State Prison. Please come forward to accept your award. In December of 2016, while driving, Ms. Smith saw 2 vehicles collide on Interstate 10. She saw a baby in a car seat ejected from one of the vehicles. She pulled over, called 911, and ran to the scene. She found a pregnant woman trapped in an overturned vehicle. She helped others lift the vehicle and free the woman. She then ran to the baby, who was unconscious, and held the baby's hand while a bystander, who was a trauma nurse, performed CPR and revived the baby. Ms. Smith herself was also 2 months pregnant at the time of the accident. "I did what was needed to be done," she indicated. Ms. Smith, thank you for your outstanding service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Correctional Officer Rod Harvell of California State Prison, Solano. Please come forward to accept your medal. Last year, while off duty, Officer Harvell became more than a youth baseball coach when he helped save a young girl's life. He was speaking to a coach when one of his 12-year-old players grabbed his arm. She was choking, began to turn blue, and dropped to her knees. Officer Harvell picked her up and began performing the Heimlich maneuver. On his second attempt, a piece of hot dog shot out of her mouth as she gasped for air. Thanks to the quick actions of Officer Harvell, there was definitely no crying in baseball that day. Thank you for your life-saving actions. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Correctional Sergeant Leticia Espinoza of Chuckawalla Valley State Prison. Please come forward to receive your medal. Last September, Sergeant Espinoza stopped at a traffic accident and assisted an injured elderly woman who was suffering from shock. As Sergeant Espinoza tried to calm the upset woman and get her safely out of the car, the woman said she was afraid that her 2 frightened dogs would be left behind. Sergeant Espinoza assured the woman that she would return for the dogs. The woman exited the car safely, and Sergeant Espinoza did in fact return and retrieve the dogs as she had promised. Thank you, Sergeant Espinoza. Thanks to Sergeant Espinoza, an elderly woman was not only okay, but so were her 2 prized possessions, her dogs. Thank you for your service. The next Bronze Star presentations will be made by Brantley Choate, Director of the Division of Rehabilitative Programs.
Thank you, Russ. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Correctional Sergeant Quentin Brantley of Chuckawalla Valley State Prison. Please come forward to receive your award. Last June, Sergeant Brantley was driving to work on Interstate 10 when a vehicle passed him at high speed. The driver lost control and rolled the vehicle, and the car ended up on its roof. After calling 911, Sergeant Brantley helped a passenger from the vehicle, but the driver was pinned behind the steering wheel. Sergeant Brantley saw the driver had a broken leg and was panicking. He smelled something burning and decided he needed to take immediate action. Sergeant Brantley broke the windshield and pulled the driver out. Another CDCR employee arrived and helped carry the driver from the vehicle. Thank you for your life-saving service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Correctional Officer Lonnie A. Watson, Jr. from California State Prison, Los Angeles County, and formerly of Pleasant Valley State Prison. Please come forward to receive your medal. Last July, Officer Watson helped save several victims at a traffic accident. Fire Captain Jesse Ryan, whose CAL FIRE unit responded, wrote in a letter of commendation, quote, "I immediately utilized Sergeant Watson to carry traumatic patients to a treatment area to be airlifted to trauma centers. He held the entire weight of the van's roof as we extricated 3 patients who were trapped. We could have not been as successful in extricating patients without Officer Watson's help. It takes special characteristics to perform in adverse traumatic conditions, and Officer Watson possesses profound characteristics of a public servant." End quote. Thank you for your life-saving service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Correctional Captain Robert O'Brien of Folsom State Prison. Captain O'Brien is unable to attend or to be here today. Last July, while dining at a Roseville restaurant, Captain O'Brien saw a man at another table leaning forward and grabbing his throat. The large party appeared stunned and did not leave their seats. Captain O'Brien sprang from his seat and gave the man the Heimlich maneuver. After 3 to 4 thrusts, the man expelled a piece of food. The man took a large breath and began to breathe. He and his wife profusely thanked Captain O'Brien, and every member of the man's large party shook his hand. Thank you for your life-saving service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Correctional Sergeant Randy Turner of San Quentin State Prison. Come forward to receive your medal. Last year, Sergeant Turner, while driving home, saw a car slam into a wall on Highway 680. He grabbed his medical kit and ran to the crash where he found a woman trapped in a car. Fuel was leaking, creating a fire danger. Sergeant Turner crawled through a smashed passenger window. The victim was bleeding from 2 injuries on one of her arms. Sergeant Turner used his shirt to apply pressure to both wounds and control the bleeding. Another passerby arrived and helped Sergeant Turner move the victim to safety. He continued treatment until the fire department arrived. Thank you for your life-saving service. Our next Bronze Stars are awarded to Correctional Sergeant Randy Turner, and which is his second Bronze Star honor today, and Correctional Officer Lisa Fewitt, both of San Quentin State Prison. Last year, the pair please come forward to receive your medals. Last year, the pair acted quickly and bravely when the life of a fellow correctional officer was in danger. While unloading inmates from a CDCR bus, an inmate attacked a correctional officer. The inmate picked up the officer and slammed the officer's head first into the floor. The inmate jumped on the officer and hit the officer repeatedly. Officer Fewitt immediately went to the downed officer's aid. Sergeant Turner soon joined her. Their combined efforts stopped the potentially lethal attack, and they subdued the inmate. Thank you both for your potentially life-saving service. Our next Bronze Star is awarded to Correctional Officer Jonathan Homer of the R.J. Donovan Correctional Facility. Please come forward to receive your medal. Last year, Officer Homer was relaxing in his residence near Santee when he was abruptly aroused by the sound of a nearby traffic accident. A speeding vehicle crashed into a construction barrier and came to rest in a drainage box. Officer Homer ran to the site of the crash. He crawled through a window to find 4 occupants severely injured, including 2 who were unconscious and struggling to breathe. Officer Homer, who was trained as an EMT, treated the victims, keeping them alive. He remained with the victims even as medical responders cut off the vehicle's roof to reach them. Officer Homer, thank you for your life-saving service. Our next presentation will be by Jerry Powers, Director of the Division of Adult Parole Operations.
Good morning. Of course, I went and left my readers in my car. Our next Bronze Star honorees are Correctional Officers Joseph Harmon and Sergio Caserhone, both of whom are unable to be here today, and Correctional Sergeant Calvin Horton, who is now retired. Also, Correctional Officer Augustine Rivera was awarded a Silver Star for his actions in this event, which occurred while all of the recipients were stationed at Kern Valley State Prison. Officer Rivera cannot be here today. Sergeant Horton, please come forward to receive your medal. Last June, these 4 officers were on their way home when they rescued a woman trapped in her car after it plunged into a canal. The woman was wedged between the dash and the damaged door panel on the passenger side. The officers waded into the canal. With difficulty, they freed the woman, carried her to safety. They treated the woman until emergency services arrived. Before helping free the woman, Officer Rivera ran to a second vehicle on fire on the roadway. He risked his safety to make sure no one was in the burning car. Fortunately, the driver had managed to get out earlier. Thank you all for your life-saving services. The Silver Star is the department's 3rd highest award for acts of bravery under extraordinary or unusual circumstances. The employee shall display courage in the face of potential peril while saving or attempting to save the life of another person or distinguish him or herself by performing in stressful situations with exceptional tactics or judgment. The Silver Star is awarded to Fred Bird, a plumber 2 at the California Correctional Center. Please come forward to receive your medal. Last August, while driving in Janesville, he spotted a suspicious-looking man. He saw the man go into a residence, and Mr. Bird was familiar with the neighborhood and knew the man did not belong there. Mr. Bird got out of his car and approached the house. He heard a woman scream inside, and he rushed into the house and confronted the intruder. After trying to hit Mr. Bird with the heavy mug, the intruder fled. Mr. Bird pursued the intruder and tackled him, and after a struggle, he was able to pin the intruder and hold him until sheriff's deputies arrived. His alertness, willingness to get involved, and bravery may have saved the woman from severe injury or even death. And on a special note, Mr. Bird's son, Private Jake Bird of the 82nd Airborne Division, was granted a pass to be here today to see his father receive his medal. Private, are you here? Thank you for your service. That's a family of heroes there. The next Silver Star is awarded to Alan Alden, formerly a staff services analyst at the Office of Peace Officer Selection and now a cadet at the Training Academy. Please come forward to receive your medal. Last year while driving, he spotted a car run over a motorcycle and come to rest with the motorcycle driver pinned under the car. The biker appeared severely injured, and Mr. Alden tried to talk to the victim but received no response. He tried to lift the vehicle, but it was too heavy. Fortunately, several bystanders then lifted the vehicle just enough for Mr. Alden to crawl under. Despite the risk of being crushed, he slowly pulled the biker from under the vehicle and stayed with the victim until medical help arrived. Asked why he took the risk to help the injured biker, he said, "I guess simply put, it's in my nature." Thank goodness it's in your nature. I want to give a special thanks to the folks at the Training Academy for allowing Mr. Alden to attend today's ceremony. The next Silver Star is awarded to Correctional Lieutenant John Mendebor of Avenal State Prison. Please come forward to receive your medal. Last December, Lieutenant Mendebor and his wife came across a vehicle wedged underneath the back of a semi-truck. The car was severely damaged and smoking from the engine compartment. He found a victim unconscious in the driver's seat with a severe gash on his head. The victim was going in and out of consciousness, apparently in shock. He and his wife tended to the victim's head wounds to slow down the bleeding. Without disregard to his personal safety, Lieutenant leaned over the smoking engine and held the victim's head steady until paramedics arrived and used the jaws of life to free the victim. This is his second Silver Star. Thank you for your bravery and life-saving service. The next Silver Star is awarded to Correctional Officer Brian Berghorst of Dual Vocational Institute. Please come forward to receive your medal. Last year, a fleeing robbery suspect picked the wrong backyard when he jumped over the fence. You know the story. His second mistake was to flee from that backyard. Officer Berghorst chased the suspect several blocks, caught up to him, and the suspect started to throw punches at Officer Berghorst. He avoided the blows and blocked the punches. He grabbed the suspect, took him to the ground, and held him in a prone position. He detained the suspect until other responding officers arrived. The Ripon police chief said Officer Berghorst saw something not right, and instead of letting it go, he took an active role in protecting not only his family and his neighbors, but the community as a whole. Officer Berghorst, thank you for your bravery and public safety service. The next Silver Star is awarded to Correctional Officer Daniel Glover of the Sierra Conservation Center. Please come forward to receive your medal. Last February, Officer Glover was driving home when he saw a driver lose control of her vehicle. The vehicle hit an embankment and rolled end over end twice before coming to rest on its side. When he reached the vehicle, he could see the driver was badly injured. The engine caught fire, and while another motorist worked to extinguish the fire, Officer Glover tried to free the victim. When he failed, he returned to his vehicle, got a cutting tool, went back and crawled into the vehicle, cut the belt, and pulled the victim to safety. Officer Glover, thank you for your service. This is like movie stuff or TVs, those fire shows and medical stuff, except it's real. It's real. There's a room full of heroes here. The next Silver Star is awarded to Correctional Officer Andrew Ashes, Jr., from the Sierra Conservation Center. Please come forward to receive your award. Last January, while driving on Highway 108 to his home from a stint on the third shift, Officer Ashes came upon a vehicle on its side, down an embankment and on fire. He stopped, ran down the embankment, and found a woman bleeding profusely from a head wound on the ground near the burning vehicle. Braving the fire, he checked the burning vehicle for other victims. Finding none, he picked up the woman and carried her to safety. He tried to keep her conscious and stop the bleeding until medical help arrived. She survived. Thank you for your bravery and life-saving service. Our next presentations will be for Gold Star medals. The Gold Star Medal is the department's second highest award for heroic deeds under extraordinary circumstances. The employee shall display courage in the face of immediate peril in acting to save the life of another person. Our first Gold Star is awarded to Damien Renault, Community Resource Manager at the Sierra Conservation Center. Please come forward to receive your medal. Last July, as he was driving home, Mr. Renault witnessed a two-car collision which caused one vehicle to roll down an embankment, landing on its top. Only a wire fence and a few small trees kept the vehicle from a 30-foot drop. The vehicle was also leaking fuel. As Mr. Renault began pulling victims from the vehicle, the fence showed signs of giving away. Yelling for others, at the top of the embankment to help, he directed them to form a human chain to rescue 2 adults and 2 children from the wreck. Mr. Renault, thank you for your bravery and life-saving service. Our next Gold Star medals are awarded to correctional officers Roy Rickman and David Matthews, both of California State Prison, Sacramento. Officer Rickman is unable to be here today. Officer Matthews, please come forward to receive your medal. Last September, both officers were driving to work in separate vehicles when they saw fire in an apartment complex. Independently, they stopped to check if anyone needed help. Officer Rickman was told a woman was in an apartment adjacent to the fire but refused to leave. He knocked on the door. The woman opened the door slightly but quickly shut and locked the door. Soon joined by Officer Matthews, both men talked to the woman through the door, trying to persuade her to leave even as heat and smoke increased. Finally, she opened the door, and the pair escorted her to safety. Officer Matthews also pounded on more doors in the building to make sure no one else was left behind. Both men then reported to work in smoke-saturated uniforms. Officers Rickman and Matthews, thank you for your bravery. Our next Gold Star Medal is awarded to Correctional Sergeant Michael Gomez of the Pine Grove Youth Conservation Camp. Please come forward to receive your medal. I apologize. Last March, Sergeant Gomez was on his way to work when he pulled up on the scene of a multi-vehicle crash involving an on-duty CHP officer. According to CHP investigators, a CHP officer crashed into the rear of the other vehicle, forcing the vehicle into oncoming traffic where it was struck by another car. It was 3 cars smoking and leaking fluid, Sergeant Gomez said. I was hesitant at first because I didn't know what was going on. Then I started hearing people screaming for help, so I went into the mode of helping. He helped the CHP officer free herself from the deployed airbags. He helped pull other people from their vehicles. Several people were taken to the hospital. Their injuries could have been much worse if not for Sergeant Gomez. Thank you for your life-saving services. The presentation of the Medal of Valor honors will be done by Kathleen Allison, Director of the Division of Adult Institutions.
Good morning, everybody. It is certainly my privilege and honor to be here today to present the award for Medal of Valor, which is our highest honor. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming to this beautiful event and to congratulate all the honorees here today. So congratulations to each and every one of you. The Medal of Valor is the department's highest award. It is an award to employees who distinguish themselves by conspicuous bravery and heroism above and beyond the normal demands of a correctional service. These next two award recipients, both of their stories are like out of a movie. And the short descriptions really don't do them justice. But I'm going to do the best I can to honor them and their heroic acts. Our first award of Medal of Valor is awarded to Correctional Sergeant Timothy Reynolds of the Statewide Transportation Unit. Please come forward to receive your medal. Last April, Sergeant Reynolds was part of the transportation unit, came across a 4-vehicle crash near Willits, where victims were in immediate peril. One car was engulfed in flames, while another was teetering on an edge of 50 to 60-foot cliff, and a big rig was leaking fuel. Sergeant Reynolds tried to put out the fire with a fire extinguisher until it was empty. The car exploded into flames, and it became intense and making a rescue impossible. The second car was also engulfed in flames. He then rescued several victims out of that car that was teetering on the edge of the cliff. One of the victims could not walk, and he had to carry her to safety. Finally, he helped the other victims from another vehicle move to safety as well. Sergeant Reynolds, thank you for your brave actions and life-saving service. Those of you in the Sacramento area heard this event on the news. So our next Medal of Valor award is for Correctional Officer Kevin Machado of the Dual Vocational Institution. Please come forward to receive your award. Last July, a man stole some knives from a Costco store in Modesto, and he was threatening shoppers and employees. It was a butcher knife. He was wheeling it around all over the store. I had the opportunity to see the video from this event, and it gave you chills to see how many people were totally unaware of this man, to include young children, wielding this knife. Costco staff were trying to evacuate the store, trying to control the situation. They were able to get the man outside. The man continued to wield the knife at everybody that was around him. Modesto Police Detective John McGill stated in an affidavit that the man's actions brought panic to the general public. Officer Machado approached the man outside the store, drew his concealed weapon, identified himself as a peace officer, and ordered the man to put the knife down. The man stabbed the knife multiple times towards Officer Machado and lunged at him several times. The attacker continued to pursue Officer Machado, and he got within 5 to 8 feet of the officer. Officer Machado fired one single shot, wounding the attacker and stopping the assault. After the man was released from the hospital, he was charged with 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon and 1 count of robbery. He later pled to no contest to 1 count of assault. Officer Machado, thank you for your bravery and life-saving service.
All right. We come to the close. And so congratulations to all of our award recipients. This concludes our ceremony. CDCR thanks all of you for coming.